Du willst mich haben, denn du findest mich schön. Ich muss sagen, das ist eine Sache, die ich gar nicht leiden kann. Ich konnte nur noch schreien. Ich konnte nur noch schreien.
And it's a subject that becomes very, very touchy. Who are you? I mean, who am I? And we look at each other and try to determine, what is your purpose for existing? Why are you here? What do you have to do here? Or do you have anything to do here? Or is this just an accident or a mistake? Is there any logical reason for us being alive, existing? Or do we just get born and then go through all of this insane things that we are involved in every day and then die? There are people who exist today because a woman was raped. You're using so that you can communicate with me and I can communicate with you. It's the only reason you need it. There's a need for light to experience existence, to be inside of a body. And so then we say, well, if we return to that neutral state of light, abandoning this body which is going to be buried. It's just like a used car. Just take it. Your junkyards. Already light taking part into another body. There is no logical way. Point where we can ascend and begin to understand. There's a that frightens me, and I can understand it. Teaching Islam, and Ahmad Halusi said, there is no God, there is just Allah. That frightens me, and I beg not to let us happen to us what happens to the guy across the street. All these things. Just learn how to come into a harmony with the very thing. Everything that you need. You don't need anybody to fill you with their spirit. Everything, on the beautiful rose on the bush, just dreaming someday it could become a rose because it doesn't realize what it is. That frightens me. And being to be reunited with loved ones. All the loved ones who have died are either in graves or in sharks or wherever the heck they are. That frightens me, and smacks against our emotional need to embrace and love and all these types of things. And I walked away. Something that I did which was good, that I stopped acting like them. When I married Joan, she made me stop drinking. And totally frustrated, I walked into the I spent my whole life stepping over bodies, especially around the holidays. They were all drunk laying on the floor. Everybody's on the floor stoned, Merry Christmas. That was great. So this consciousness is individual. And what we want to think about here now, just bear attention. Let me just show you how unique your consciousness is. How about if we took the thoughts that go on inside of you and put them up on a screen here? But you'd all leave. You would all leave because you couldn't deal with that. You couldn't stand anything like that because these are all these unique, wild things that go on inside of everybody's mind. So it gives us a point of view to say, where did that stuff come from? Is it the individual? Is it your consciousness? Is it somebody else's consciousness? Well, there's no doubt about that. And how do we know that? We know that for a fact. It's not even, it comes to life in another place. You can't kill it. So then that frightens me. And light, a messenger. It has entered into your body as a fetus, and at the time that the body can no longer support life, it leaves. But part of you goes. Of course we want to get out of here, and this is over. I want out, I'm out of here. So I want to go with the light. But do you go with that light, or do you wind up in the box? In order to appease our desire, let's look at it logically. Let's go back to the beginning, okay? We understand about the coming together of the mother and father and so forth and so on. The body begins to be formed and picks up chromosomes. And then when the time is right, the pineal is formed. The body being created inside of your mother is penetrated by light which descends from above on an angle and animates your body, gives you life, allows consciousness, and allows all of these things to happen. You have to be hooked up to some kind of an electrical source. You have to be. You can't just be a brain and you have to be animated, and you have to have some connection with nature. So the light part, because it's neutral light. It's not an intelligent light, it's a neutral light. But you're not a bear. See? So now you have found a nesting place. Now the question is this, and listen to this carefully. Before you found this nesting place inside of your mother's womb, did you have consciousness? Did you have consciousness as light before you found your way into your mother's womb? Pick up entities, pick up attachments of experiences and so forth and so on. Come on, I mean, if you could think of another way, if you want to dwell in the idea of hocus pocus, that's one thing. But if you want to try to logically explain what this is all about, so now the body begins to develop, and it is totally out of your control. The chromosomes and the genetics do their things. You have nothing. You're the light. What we're saying is, you're the light. Here's the baby. You're the light. You enter in, you're inside of the baby, but now the baby is developing. The baby is developing genetically, the baby is developing through the chromosomes, the baby is developing through all of these things, and you have nothing to do with it. The baby comes out of your mother's body, it is you. Your skin color, the color of your hair, all programmed into you by years and years of intercoursing between people who come on before you, and so everything then is in a pattern. Here you are, but inside of you, that light that entered to animate it has nothing whatsoever to do with it. Nothing whatsoever to do with this. And what I am proposing to you is that you enter the body, you become part of your family of the earth. But that which entered the body was of a different family altogether. See, it's like people say, if you have sought, and I will prove to you biblically that you seek another body, light seeks another body after it cannot. But if you have, people say, the one thing I want to do, Mom died. When I die, I want to go on. I just want to see my mother again. But if you've lived, say, 1,000 incarnations, which mom do you want to see? You've had thousands of mothers. Some of it programmed by your family and training and a church, but there's something inside of you that is not. There is something inside. There is a part of you which says, I'm an Italian, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Jewish, I'm whatever it is because of your parents. There's a part of you that has dark hair or blonde hair because of your parents. I like this, I do this. But there's another part of you that somehow is being drawn away from all of these things that have been given to you by your parents and by your system and by your society. There are two forms of consciousness here. But there is a part that is desperately pulling within you to get away from this, and that's why you're sitting here looking at me. So there's something else that came down that was put in the middle of this baby, and then the baby started forming genetically with the chromosomes and all of this and became an entity of life that was totally controlled by the people of the earth. But inside of that baby was this light particle that at a point is pulling you someplace else. Most of the time you pull back and say, no, I don't want to go that way because of the church. I don't want to be seen that way. I don't want to go that way because of my parents. I don't want to offend anybody. They'll get mad at me if I go to this meeting or if I do this. But there's something pulling inside of you. And so you'll sit and you'll listen to all of this stuff in churches, and yet inside of you there's something that pulls you and say, this bull. It's not true. It's not reasonable. Why am I here? And so then that part is you. You've got to wheel and deal daily with the system that you live in. That's one part. But why is it doing what it is doing within you? What are you looking for that so many others out there are refuting? There is this. The idea would be that there is something inside of you that has a different origin than the rest of you. The rest back and saying, come on, I want to show you who you are. Come on, I want to show you why you're inside of that body. You say, what am I inside of this crazy family? I used to say as a little kid, I said, what the heck am I? These people are nuts. Some people say, you choose your parents. I chose this. This was my idea? No, I don't think so. Could it be that somebody else chose it for me? Thus, if one would use logic, if you use logic and think that consciousness is tremendously important in carrying out our activities on the earth, how curious is it that there is another aspect of consciousness which is pulling us to another place, pulling us to a higher realm, pulling us to a new idea, pulling us to a new enlightenment. There is something inside of us that is consciousness that says, I got to go to work, man. Oh, I got to get the car fixed. Oh, I got to get the insurance paid. Did you pay the mortgage? What did the doctor say? There's something in that. But there's another consciousness inside of us that's set apart from that consciousness that is saying, come into the center. Come into the light. I got something. Now is the time. There is something else pulling us. What do you do? But they're not allowed to say anything, and they don't dare say anything because they'll get in trouble either with the religious or they'll get in trouble with their families or whatever. I mean, John had an uncle that signed us out of his will because of the way we were. I mean, that's tough. I was going to down and say, I'm repenting, I'm a believer. You know.
And he was an uncle Jim.
Yeah, he was in a higher room. It is the reason that you're sitting in this strange place looking at me. Could you ever remember, could you think 2 or 3 years ago you'd be sitting listening to this kind of stuff? No. It's separate and distinct from the consciousness which is evidenced in your daily activities. That consciousness is fed by genetics and training and earthly things. Remember, before you were born, you were capable of becoming anyone. It totally depends on the environment as to what you have become. You're rich, you're poor, you're stressed, you're relaxed, you go to Harvard or you go to Wharton or whatever these places are. I mean, it all totally depends on others. Everything depended on somebody else. There of the baby now, that the baby can go on without being attached, you know, umbilically or uterally or whatever they call it. Is there any way it can go on without being attached? The answer is yes. There is light, there is energy which has entered into the baby. Now the baby can be animated, now the baby can survive because of the light that has come into it. Into the pineal. Okay? Let me just, because you're getting late now, let me just say this. Okay? So you're going to see the world. Now listen to this. You're going to see these were the intelligent people who provided you with mathematics, who provided you with astronomy and anatomy, who provided you with medicine and all of these types of things. These were the brilliant minds, and they were pagans because they said, hey, come on, either we're going to find out logic here. But the religious people provided nothing but superstition and called subatomic structures spirit. So you'll see the world through a fresh pair of eyes. You'll live again, but it will always seem like it's the first time unless you've been teleported here for a purpose. If you've been teleported here for a purpose, you will know back in the recesses that you have another identity and that when your mission here has been accomplished, you will rejoin that body that is being preserved for you in that street where you live. So, you come under the direction of a universal command center that has been labeled the Great White Lodge. We'll go into that. We are confident to consider that the body goes into the grave. It is not going to heaven. It is done. It is finished. And we who entered the fetus now scurry through the pineal, leave the body. And the deep question is, now that we have left the body as a particle of light and will travel in waveform, do we have consciousness? Do we take anything from this body with us in the form of consciousness? And in order to proceed, when we will proceed, we have to address one deep question, and that concerning life is a one-word question. And the question is, why? We've covered last week, and actually what's being discussed here is consciousness. It's talking about you, it's talking about your mind, and it's talking about those things that must happen if you're to be set free from the traditional concepts that have steered you more or less into the difficulties you've experienced in your life so that you're free to experience life as it is supposed to be experienced. There is no reason why you should not know why you exist. I mean, you know, there's a funny thing. If you look around this room, just do it with me, everything you'll see in this room, you'll know what its purpose is. Now look at the person next to you. People don't know what they're for. You don't know what you're here for. You don't know what you're doing. You're supposed to raise children or what? What for? Go to work for what? Everybody that's ever done this are in cemeteries, and whoever knows they even got here. So what's your purpose? You should know what your purpose in life is. You should know why there's a planet. You should know why there's a universe. Why does it all happen? What's it all for? And the unfortunate part is most people have no idea. And in order for you to know and for you to understand, things are going to happen to you that are going to cause you to break from the traditional establishment that you've been plugged into all of your life. And that's scary for a lot of people. And that's what Matthew 20 does. Your teacher's thoughts, the system's thoughts, politicians' thoughts, all kinds of things that you will suddenly find out that you are no longer in tune with. These things bother you. The way somebody talks to you, the ideals that they set up for you, these things bother you. I was on my brother last night, you know, and we always have a chance, we always have an opportunity to pass the buck. He's one of these guys that has this beautiful VCR in his house. He's had a VCR there for 3 years, never knew how to work the thing. Never knew how to work it, never knew how to say, I mean, you know, he never knew. And so he called me and said, you know, I can never get this thing to work. And he said, I put a tape on, and he said, I like Frank Sinatra. I got this Frank Sinatra tape. I put the tape on. It's all static. I said, well, turn the tracking. He said, what? Turn the tracking. What's that? I says, there's a knob on the front of your thing. He says, there's no knob here. I says, there's a little door on the front of your thing. Pull the door down. There's a knob that says track. Oh, he pulls the door. Yeah, I see it. I says, turn it. Yeah, I can see the picture. Yeah, it's clear. He says, I mean, that's all that was wrong with it? I said, there was nothing wrong with it. There was something wrong with you. The opinions of others. You know, oh, you've left the faith. The opinions of others that you're not doing the right thing. That's frightening, you know. This. Never asked you what you wanted to grow up and be like. Because he didn't want to. He didn't care. And all of our lives are put around what somebody else wants. Your father wants you to be able to have a psychiatrist just like he does. And you're going to have a good job in order to afford that, you see. You've got to grow up to be just as, and then they'll go to all of these psychiatrists, see, to find out what's wrong with them. And the psychiatrist brings them down to a normal level of insanity. Totally barbaric. The system is barbaric, but we all figure it's normal. That frightens me.